Hey boys and girls, we're back for another video finally. Kids are back to school, temperatures are dropping, and hopefully we're going to be able to fish here pretty regularly in the next week or two. Got a new bug here for you today, just a variation, Pheasant Tail Flier, PT Flier. If you saw one of my last videos, I was doing a stone fly that we see here in the little Hannah, trying to get that right. And I bought this little device that cuts these wings out. They actually come out looking like this, which is pretty neat. That's the one I'm using today. All I did was take this River Road Creation wing pad cutter and pick a different type of thin skin. This one has a design on it. Try to do it with silver for that stone fly. Didn't really pop the way that I wanted it to, but when I switched the marker that I'm coloring the back of those, it's just a metallic paint marker. Color the back side of the thin skin, cut them out, and shows up a pretty good pattern there. So a different horse material, or a different material that I came across is some horsetail. I went out into the field beside my house and I shaved a horse and got all the stuff off of it. So if you have a horse that's nearby and nobody's watching, it's a pretty good material. So we'll walk through that as we tie these things in here today. But it's a pretty basic pattern. And what we have here is what we're looking at. This is an Insta-Jig bead by Hairline, using a new material that I ordered online that if you've seen some other things that I have, tried this certain type of crochet yarn, and I found a smaller size. This is a size 5 that had some great fall colors in it, and I got a couple different examples to show you here on just some different color variations that we're getting started on. So the size hook we got here, this is a Firehole 7/18, size 16. This is one of my favorite hooks. It's a perfect size. I still get a good gap, but I get the length that I need to keep the the bugs a little bit more slender. Some of the other things that we're using here, Hairline Rainbow Scud. This is the dark stuff. For the tails, CDL, this is a ginger color. And I showed you the thread that we're using. I'm using Semperfly. This is their red, which I'm really liking. And just using basic black thread for the base. Try to build up the body, give it a little bit of a taper. And horsetail. So that's always fun when you try to shave a horse. You never know what you're going to get. So let's get started here. Alright, so I went ahead and put these Insta-Jig heads on previously. Put them in a little bit of super glue. I let them dry, and then I work on them, as I can. Here's size 20s. Same type of thing, but starting this, just gonna lay this thread on about halfway back. This is the black, almost to the tip, or almost to the hook point. And I'm gonna take probably about a half a dozen or so of these. You don't need an awful lot because we're adding some legs and stuff in here. And that looks about right. I'm going to try to keep these on the top of the hook. At the very end, I try to splay them out a little bit. The idea is to keep this, you know, slender. I mean, it is a size 16. So the bug itself isn't very thick. You know, if you ever caught a stonefly or ever caught a mayfly, which this is, you know, a representation of, their bodies really are not that thick. I just want to get a little bit of a taper from the tail up to the thorax here. That gives us a little bit to work with. I'll tie this off. I'm going to tie on this tinsel thread. This has probably got about 5 or 6 strands in it. I haven't messed around with trying to separate them very much, you know, for something a little bit thinner, but you do have to be cautious with these tinsel things, strings and things like that, because they can break. So I'll tie that on the back. Now I'm gonna tie this off, even though I already did. Okay. So when we're wrapping this on, I like to do it from the top, but this first wrap, be cautious of those tails. Try to get them splayed out a little bit if you can. And then I am just doing touching wraps the whole way up here. This type of thread seems to want to flatten out, so you don't really want to lay it over, you know, an existing wrap. Okay, now we're going to put our nano silk on. Off. Tie this off and cut it. Okay. Just cinch that down a little bit better. I'm going to put a little bit of UV on this, just to protect that tinsel. My hands are really shaking today. We're gonna cook it. You could fish it just like this if you wanted to. I have a number of those in my box. Okay, now for some of the rainbow dubbing. This stuff does not dub very well, but do your best to make it work there. I go back to the midpoint. Pick some of these stray hairs out of here. Most of those are going to be covered up. Now, when you got your horsetail, try to find a piece. It can be very curly. I guess maybe it depends on the horse. But we're gonna tie this on right at the sides. And I will cut this a little bit longer than what seems normal. And we'll square up at the end, getting the front legs probably about a ½ inch or so out in front of the head, like this. We're gonna end up folding them back anyway. So I try to keep this about as just short of the tail. Just short of the end of the tail, I should say. Okay, like this, see? Now, we get our wing pad, and you can do this a number of different ways. I like to put it on there so that it's kind of right on top of those legs. We want the legs to kind of get bent down and splayed back. But be cautious with this nano silk and this thin skin. If you put it on to where they're just overlapping each other and you try to cinch that down, I've cut this thin skin an awful lot. So I always try to put a couple wraps on it just to hold it in place. And then I will get a little bit more dubbing to kind of lay over that as I'm tightening it up. That way there's some kind of cushion in there. Okay, and we're going to fold this back. Try to get inside of it there. Well, most times you could leave that on there. I think it takes away from what the wings are trying to do. So most times, I'm just going to cinch it off like that. Okay. Now we're going to take both of these pieces of horsetail and go in behind them around the head here so that we get that type of a look, and we'll trim those. Now with this nano silk, like I said, I like this red. I can build this up and get somewhat of a hot spot on the top of this, just to make it pop a little bit. And we're gonna tie that off. And get rid of that. Okay. Now as far as this wing case that we folded back, there's still a good piece of it in here. I try to do that so that we can expose that wing a little bit more. Make sure we get the right leg here. So people call these clingers. Never seen one with ones that long, but that's kind of what we're looking at there. And to finish it off, a little bit of pink Solaris right on the very top. Cook that a little bit. Okay, that's kind of what we're looking at, folks. You can take the underside of this and brush it out if you want. This one isn't too bad. Got a little couple stray hairs on there, but just to show you an example of one that I did brush out. A little bit buggier. Depending on the water. And that, friends, is a PT Flier. Give it a shot. Something different. It is catching fish for me, which is nice. If you guys have any questions, please send me something in the chat, and we'll talk to you later. All right, thanks for showing up. Thanks. Bye-bye.